What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only SPY, the Nasdaq, the QQQ, and the indices. Break down what's going on with the overall stock market, what you should be watching for, and why we should be very, very cautious during times like this. I'm also going to break down what the data is telling us simultaneously, and how this could actually lead to even more bullish price action, at least for the short term. Now, before I break anything down about this, before I give you guys any forecasts and price predictions, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and then it could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 11 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So SPY was actually up about 0.96% for the day. And the real question is, what's actually about to happen? I want to note to everyone that right now we do have some very bullish looking structures developing, and we could actually see another continuation of the upside momentum as we are starting to see the Fed slow down, at least to some degree. We're seeing some signs of that because the Fed did increase their balance sheet by about like $300 billion. So right now, the Fed is considering that they're going to actually reverse on the quantitative tightening to some degree. And they're doing this to actually help alleviate a lot of the banks that have been struggling. Now, this is not guaranteed that they're pivoting just yet, but it does tell us right now the Fed is trying to actually budge a bit, and they are actually starting to support banks. Now, looking at this data, a lot of the market is now getting ready for the Fed to announce some kind of pause, either during like the next rally, maybe during the next FOMC meeting, maybe going into the next couple of meetings. They may actually give us more confirmation on it. And the market is just betting on that. The market's getting excited. The market's starting to pump. The Fed, in my opinion, is not going to pause during this meeting, the meeting that's coming up on Wednesday, but they're most likely going to pause later on. They are going to likely slow down a bit, though, to help out the banks because right now the situation is becoming very critical. So, what can we say about the data and the options chain for SPY? What we can say is Max Payne's at about 393 for tomorrow, but we have a 2.45 put to call ratio. This is the highest put to call ratio we have until like the very end of March. So that's a whole 11 days, which means we're most likely going to see the market try to push up even more because of the market makers. The market makers are most likely going to try to cause it again for something very similar to today. But I do believe there's going to be a lot of chop at the same time. So I am seeing some chop for tomorrow, followed by a bit of a push up. And we should get a pretty decent close. Now, it's also worth noting that Wyckoff, if you look at the schematic, is suggesting the market likely has more upside. If you compare this to SPY, you could quite clearly see that if we are entering the ending phases of Wyckoff, we could see us continue to rally at least to the previous high we made, or even go even higher if possible. But I'm not really counting on that, but I do believe it's very possible. It will depend on the FOMC meeting too. Now, right now, the market is pricing in a 25 basis point rate hike for the most part, and the market's getting ready for the Fed. I believe the Fed is most likely going to give us 25 basis points. It makes the most sense because if they're already starting to print out more money, or at least they're getting ready to do so, it would not make sense for them to just pause at the same time because there still has to be more tightening as inflation is still relatively high. It makes most sense for them to actually do something like that. Now, once again, FOMC is going to be happening on Wednesday. Tomorrow is going to be the last full day until FOMC. But now the real question on a lot of people's minds is what's going to happen to the markets? Well, I first want to note that if you look at SPY, you could argue that this is resembling like a cup and handle. You could even zoom in. There's like another way of looking at it, and that is this is like a cup and handle within a cup and handle. So like right here, we have another cup and handle potentially developing. We are actually simultaneously forming a bullish triangle-like structure right here, and we are retesting this resistance around this 393 to 394 zone. So once again, if we get a break of this trend line, we're most likely going to see SPY fly all the way up to fill this gap. But I just want to remind everyone, just in case there's some kind of bad news or the banks collapse, if something like that happens, make sure you watch the 50 EMA on the 1 hour time frame around this 392 level, followed by about 390, then 388.56. I don't think SPY is going to drop that much. I think we're going to chop around a lot in the beginning, similar to how we did today, how we came down, went back up, and it was just back and forth. But I think ultimately, as the day goes on, we're going to start pushing higher tomorrow, and we're going to get another green close. I think the market will push up approaching FOMC. And where we move after that is going to depend heavily on the meeting. Now, once again, be prepared for both the bullish and bearish cases. But like I said before, and like I said in my previous videos, the odds are favoring the bulls and the market pushing up more. For Amazon, if you're bearish, watch the 95.7 area, followed by this like 93. If you're bullish, make sure you watch all the way up to 100, followed by like 98 as the next resistance. What do I think Amazon's going to do? I think Amazon's going to fill this gap very soon, around almost 99, then push all the way up to 100 by the time we get closer to the end of the week. Maybe as we get into like the F1C day, this could happen intraday before we see a reversal. It could even happen tomorrow. Amazon might try to get all the way up to 99 tomorrow. But overall, it looks more bullish. Tesla, very nice move on Tesla today. It had lots of relative strength. I just want to notice that we had a very, very nice looking candle today as we pushed up to this 186 zone, but we failed to fully fill the gap again. It happened again, but Tesla held up. It's up 1.73%. I think Tesla's going to try to hold up again tomorrow, just trade sideways basically for most of the day. But I do think it's going to try to fill this gap. It's getting closer and closer. Notice how it keeps getting close. It just keeps happening over and over and over again. And this is once again resembling a bullish triangle structure. The odds favor Tesla going to the much higher 180s very, very soon. And then what happens after FOMC, however, will depend on what Powell says and also the Fed's policies. AMC, she has been basing around $4. She's trying to bounce a bit. I don't know if we fully filled this gap. I think we're getting very close to it. I could see her try to get to the mid fours, somewhere around there. I think it's very possible. But once again, it's going to depend heavily on the market because right now, AMC did find its temporary bottom around 4, and it's just trying to hold up. And it's getting very tight, so it's going to make a very big move soon. I think it's just waiting for FOMC. Until then, I think AMC is going to hold up, trade sideways, maybe be a little green for tomorrow. NVIDIA, what are we seeing for NVIDIA? I'm seeing that what I told you yesterday was this thing would pull back and get a really nice bounce. That's exactly what happened. And now what I'm seeing is we have to fight. Excuse me, sorry. We have to fight for about 260, okay? 260 is going to be a fight zone. If we could break 260, if we break and hold 260 tomorrow, I'm going to be watching 264, 266.5, followed by the 270 zone. I believe we have to be prepared for anything just in case. But looking at the structure, it looks like it keeps trying to fight on the 4-hour time frame. Our MACD is still open from what I remember. And we're also well above the 50 EMA. I think we're also well above the 200 EMA. Overall, the RSI is not completely overbought. It looks like it wants to keep going. In my opinion, the bulls are still in control of this stock. It still has a nice edge. And I think that if the market holds up nicely, we could see NVIDIA try to break above 260 and get a little bit higher and retest 264 tomorrow. If it could break that, we could get a little higher, but I'm just going to be watching that zone, at least for the time being. All right, so overall, it looks more bullish. It's holding up nicely. I want to see this thing retest this 264 area. Now for NIO announced that they actually released their third generation battery swap station like even earlier than anticipated, and NIO made a very nice move thanks to that. In my opinion, as long as NIO could hold above 8.5, it has some more potential to keep going. Another resistance zone is around 8.7. If it could break and hold it, if it just holds 8.7, as long as it doesn't break way too much below that, it has the potential to go all the way up to 9. And if it breaks 9, this $9 zone, it has the potential to go all the way up to, I think, like 9.3, 9.37. That's where the next resistance zone is. It definitely has the potential to do that. The odds are favoring it doing that, but we have to hold 8.7 first. All right, if it fails to hold it, then it's going to come all the way down to 8.5. If that fails, there's 8.33. But I do believe the odds do favor NIO trying to hold and maybe pushing up more. Apple did almost exactly what I predicted. I predicted Apple would close around 157.5. We ended up closing at 157.4. So what's going to happen tomorrow? Apple right now has a bullish structure. It's holding up nicely, but we have lots of resistance right around this level. I also want to note that on the daily time frame, Apple has broken this high, at least temporarily. And the next level to watch is 160. Then believe it's 163 or the 163 zone. Around that area is what I'm going to be watching on Apple if it could actually break to 160. I do believe Apple's going to try it. It's going to make an attempt to do so. The overall structure of it on the 4 hour time frame, so far, I believe it's actually favoring the bulls. We have a nice PPO that's open. Also, our signal line is getting pretty high on the MACD. It's well above these EMAs. So, in my opinion, it's going to fight for 157.5. It's going to keep fighting it. If we could break this, which I think we most likely will, 160 could come. Break 160, I'm going to be watching the 163 zone around there. I do think Apple's going to try it. The odds do favor Apple trying to get the breakout. But if we're bearish, just in case something happens, like another bank collapses, I'm going to be watching first off the 154 zone, which is where we actually saw a lot of volatility. If that fails, then there's 151 around that area. But overall, like I said, the odds do favor upside for Apple. Uh, what else do we have? We have Google, aka Alphabet. Excuse me. Um, one of the things I mentioned to you guys was I'm watching this zone right here between 103 to about 105, and you could see it actually got rejected off of it. It still held up okay. It has the potential to retest 103.7. I think if it breaks it, 105 could come. Overall, the price action has been more in favor of the bulls. I'm going to be watching this thing get slowly closer to about 105. Once again, looking pretty nice. Our Russell 2000 is actually up once again, got a nice bounce. We do have this gap down here. I don't know if it's going to come down to fill this gap first and then try to bounce. That could actually happen tomorrow. We might come down to fill this gap and then try to bounce because this is not looking as strong as the collective market. And if we do get the bounce, it could actually fly to about 176.5. That is very, very possible if it comes up to bounce after that retest of the gap fill. For Meta, I was actually more bullish on Meta. I told you all Meta would probably pull back a bit then bounce. We did get a slight pullback. And now for the bounce, this thing did close around 197.8. Now, one problem with Meta is on the 1 hour time frame, there is a possible head and shoulders that's developing if it starts to fail and it falls below this 195 zone. If that happens, it could be developing a head and shoulders and this could turn bearish. But I do believe that before that happens, before this like head and shoulders does play out, if it does end up playing out, it still has the potential to push up to about 200. So I believe Meta is going to try to get to 200, maybe chop around here for tomorrow, and then we will see how it goes from there. It could actually start falling, right? Not a guarantee. I'm not saying it for sure because it looks like it's going to depend on FOMC, but it is a possibility that we should all be prepared for. For the triple Q, I want to note that this thing was up about 0.35%. Overall, it's still holding up all right, not too horrible. I'm going to be looking for a retest of 309. I think it could actually try to get that. On the 4 hour, our MACD is still looking all right. It's not necessarily too bad. It is starting to slow down a bit, and that's because we have a lot of resistance around this 305 to about 309 zone. So I do believe we're going to get a retest right there. And also our MACD is once again wide open. So this is actually looking more in favor of the bulls. I'm going to be watching for a retest of 309 tomorrow. For the dollar index, it's coming down once again, which is bullish for the stock market. And a lot of this is happening because of the tightening of financial conditions and the slowdown of the banks right now. So that's part of why this is happening. The Fed also printed, or at least they plan on printing more money. This is not going to be the best for the dollar, but this is actually helping the market pump a bit. The VIX did something very similar to what I predicted. I told you all the VIX would probably have a down day since we were up over 10% on Friday. Now, if the VIX continues to drop, I'm going to be watching this 22.64 area around the 22s. It looks like it might come all the way down there. And then if that does not hold us, it could go down to like 20. I don't know for sure if that's going to happen. We'll just have to wait and see. And a lot of it's going to depend on the FOMC meeting. All right, so with that said, I think I went over the majority of the stocks out there. Microsoft, it did pull back. My guess on Microsoft was a pullback and maybe a small bounce. I don't think we got the bounce I was looking for. We do have a gap up here, but overall the structure is looking a little bit more distributive. So not as strong as many other stocks out there. If we get this bounce off 269 to about 268, I could see Microsoft try to fill this gap and get all the way up to about 278 again if we get a nice bounce. And I think the odds do favor that still, especially because we have some bullish signals starting to play out for the NASDAQ and also for SPY. So I want to see this thing bounce. It has to get above this like 276 zone. If that happens, I could see it fly all the way up to 278.88 and almost 280. If that happens, once again, that would be a bullish signal for it, and I think that's very possible. The odds do favor that. So, anyways, I want to thank each and every one of you so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The market to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright, and peace out.